Every animal that builds something builds it for itself. A bird builds a nest. The bird lives in it. The eggs go in it. The function is direct. The builder is the occupant. A beaver builds a dam. The beaver uses it. The lodge it creates is where the beaver sleeps, raises young, and survives winter. Every calorie of energy spent on construction returns a direct physical benefit to the animal that spent it. Termites build mounds the size of small cars with internal climate control systems more sophisticated than most human office buildings. The termites live in them. Humans built the pyramids. Humans built the cathedrals of medieval Europe. Humans built the temples of Angkor Wat, the ziggurats of ancient Mesopotamia, the Parthenon, the Pantheon, Stonehenge, and thousands of structures requiring millions of hours of collective human labor. Some of the largest objects any species has ever created. The humans did not live in them. They built them for someone else. Someone invisible. Someone whose existence cannot be physically confirmed. Someone who has never once been observed using any of the facilities provided. No other species does this, not one. Every other animal that constructs anything constructs it for a purpose it can directly use. Only humans build houses for beings they cannot see. From an evolutionary standpoint, this looks like the most spectacular waste of energy in the history of life on Earth. But here is the strange thing. It was not wasteful at all. Temple building did not begin with organized religion. It began before organized religion existed. In 1994, archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavating a hillside in southeastern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. What he found there changed everything researchers thought they knew about the sequence of human civilization. Göbekli Tepe is a temple complex. Massive carved stone pillars arranged in circles, decorated with animals, abstract symbols, and human-like figures. The scale is extraordinary. The craftsmanship is sophisticated. It is 11,600 years old. That is older than agriculture, older than the wheel, older than writing, older than the first city, built at a time when humans were still hunter-gatherers who had not yet settled permanently anywhere. For most of human history, researchers assumed the sequence went in one direction. Humans settle. Humans farm. Surplus food creates free time. Free time creates culture and religion. Religion eventually produces temples. Göbekli Tepe reversed that sequence completely. The temple came first, before the farm, before the village, before any of the conditions researchers assumed were required for large-scale construction. Hunter-gatherers were already organizing themselves to build permanent sacred structures for beings they could not see. Which means the drive to house gods is not a product of civilization. It is older than civilization. And whatever produced it was already operating inside the human brain before any of the conditions that were supposed to cause it existed. Now here is where it gets complicated. To understand why humans build for invisible occupants, you have to understand what the human brain does with the concept of a powerful agent. Agent detection. The brain's tendency to assume unexplained events have causes with intentions behind them, does not just generate the belief that a powerful being exists. It generates a specific social relationship with that being, because the human brain does not only detect agents, it models them. It builds detailed simulations of what they want, what they respond to, what they find satisfying or offensive. It tracks their preferences the same way it tracks the preferences of a powerful human authority. And here's what the brain does with a powerful authority it needs to maintain a relationship with. It creates a place for that authority to be. Think about what humans do with human leaders. Kings get palaces. Chiefs get the largest structure in the settlement. Important authorities get dedicated spaces that signal their status and provide a location where the relationship can be enacted. The brain that built a relationship with an invisible powerful agent applied the same social logic. The god needs somewhere to be. Not because the god physically requires shelter, because the human brain cannot maintain a social relationship with something that has no location. A being with no place has no presence. A being with no presence cannot be approached, appeased, thanked, or communicated with. The temple is not a house for the god. The temple is a social technology for the human brain. It creates a location where the relationship with the invisible agent can be enacted, where the communication can happen, where the group can gather around a shared focal point and perform the behaviors that maintain the most important relationship in their social world. Over thousands of generations, groups that built dedicated structures for their gods maintained stronger collective belief, more consistent ritual practice, and more cohesive group identity than groups that did not. The temple worked, not because the god moved in, because the humans who built it moved differently around it. And that difference changed everything. This sounds like philosophy. It isn't. Göbekli Tepe is the proof. Klaus Schmidt spent decades excavating the site before his death in 2014. What he found was not a village with a temple attached. It was a temple with no village. No evidence of permanent habitation. No storage pits. No domestic structures. No cooking areas. People did not live at Göbekli Tepe. They came to it. From distances, researchers estimated up to 100 kilometers. Hunter-gatherers who had no permanent settlement, no agriculture, no surplus food, and no state to organize their labor, somehow coordinating to quarry, transport, and erect stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons each. The scale of coordination required to build Göbekli Tepe was, at that point in human history, unprecedented. And it happened not because a king demanded it, not because a civilization had surplus resources, but because a group of humans with almost nothing built the most ambitious structure of their era for an occupant no one could see. Researchers now believe Göbekli Tepe may not be the exception. It may be evidence that sacred construction preceded agriculture rather than following it, that the drive to build for gods was not a luxury produced by civilization, that civilization itself may have grown up around the need to maintain structures for invisible, powerful agents. Because the social coordination required to build a temple was the same social coordination required to build a farming community. The temple did not follow civilization. Civilization may have followed the temple. The brain did not develop agent detection and social modeling to build temples. It developed them to navigate relationships with powerful humans. The temple was the side effect. And it was one of the most consequential side effects in the history of our species. Think about what that actually means. Every great structure humans have ever built for religious purposes, the pyramids, the cathedrals, the mosques, the temples, was not a product of misguided belief or primitive thinking. It was the output of a brain running its most sophisticated social software on an invisible target. The same cognitive machinery that built Versailles for a king built Chartres Cathedral for a god. The same social logic that says a powerful authority needs a place to be, a location that signals their importance, a space where the relationship can be enacted, applied with identical architecture to an occupant no one could verify. And it worked. Not for the god. For the humans who built it. Groups with temples cooperated at larger scales than groups without them. They maintained shared identity across longer distances. They generated collective labor for common projects. They created focal points that persisted across generations, carrying cultural memory in stone rather than in individual human minds that eventually die. The bird builds a nest, and the nest disappears when the bird does. The human builds a cathedral, and it outlasts everyone who built it by 1,000 years. Nobody designed that outcome. It emerged from a brain that could not maintain a relationship with something that had no place to be. The next time you walk into a church, a mosque, a temple, or any dedicated sacred space and feel something shift, a quality of attention, a different register of presence, a sense that this place is not like the space outside it, that is not architecture. That is 11,600 years of human brains training themselves to treat certain spaces as locations where invisible powerful agents reside. The building is doing something to you that it was built to do. Not to house the god, to house the part of you that needs the god to have somewhere to be. The bird has a nest. The beaver has a lodge. The termite has a mound. And somewhere in your brain, in a part that has not changed since hunter-gatherers quarried 20-ton stones in southeastern Turkey for an occupant who never showed up to inspect the work, you have a temple. You have always had one. You built it before you knew why.